Did you know there was once a family so powerful that they could make or break popes, control entire nations, and shape the course of history? Welcome to Medici, the most powerful family in history. And today we tell the story of how the Medici became the most powerful family in history. The year is 1417, and Europe is a continent at war with itself. Faith has been divided between two rival popes, and it's anyone's guess who will come out on top. But amid the religious upheaval, one man quietly forges ahead with his plans for power. His name is Giovanni de' Medici, and he runs a small money-changing business in Florence. It's a humble start for what would become the most powerful family in history. Giovanni's business takes off when he lends money to the powerful Medici Bank, an old established firm owned by the powerful Bardi family. The loan pays off, and soon he is making enough money to buy out the Bardi family and take over the bank for himself. He renames it the Medici Bank and establishes a branch in Rome. There he becomes the banker to two popes, both claimants to the papacy. As the chaos of the Western Schism rages outside, Giovanni carefully courts both sides, staying neutral and making money hand over fist. He's not interested in the trappings of power himself. Instead, he leaves the dirty work of governance to others, while he focuses on growing his fortune. All he really wants is influence, because Giovanni understands something very few people do. Influence is the ultimate source of power. When wielded correctly, it can bring you far more than wealth or status ever could. When he dies in 1429, his son Cosimo inherits a fortune, and with it, great influence. The time is ripe for seizing even more power. With the papacy still divided, and the other Italian states weakened by internal strife, the stage is set for Florence to take control of Italy. And who better to lead that charge than the Medici? Cosimo wastes no time in consolidating his power. He bribes officials, funds mercenary armies, and buys out entire businesses to add them to his growing empire. Soon he controls all of Florence, but he's careful not to flaunt his power. Though he has absolute control, he keeps up the pretense of Florence being a free republic. He knows that if people see him as a tyrant, they'll rebel against him. So instead, he plays the part of a generous benefactor. He funds public works projects, builds schools and hospitals, and throws lavish parties that celebrate the culture of Florence. In reality, he rules the city with an iron fist. But most people are none the wiser. In fact, many believe that this is truly a golden age for Florence. They don't realize that behind the scenes, Cosimo is running the city like a well-oiled machine. Every major decision goes through him first, and he surrounds himself with loyalists who do his bidding. He sets up a council of 8 men who report directly to him, effectively sidelining the traditional governing bodies in Florence. In their place, he installs his own people who share his vision for the city. For Cosimo, that vision includes getting another Medici elected to the papacy. And who better to install than his own nephew, the 25-year-old Giovanni de' Medici? With Cosimo's backing, Giovanni runs a slick campaign that involves tons of bribery and manipulation. In the end, it works, and Giovanni is elected Pope, taking the name Pius II. Now the Medici truly have it all: money, influence, and now the most powerful office in Christendom. But they won't rest on their laurels. Under Pius II, the Medici continue to grow their power and wealth. They fund wars, build monuments, and crush their enemies. They become the dominant force in Italy, and their influence spreads throughout Europe. But the good times don't last forever. After Pius II dies in 1464, the papacy passes to Paul II, another Medici puppet. But Paul is more interested in pleasure than politics, and he's easily manipulated by outside forces. Soon the French are calling the shots in Rome, and the Medici lose much of their influence. Still, they have plenty of power left in Florence, and their wealth shows no signs of diminishing. The Medici Bank is the biggest in Europe, and its tentacles reach into every corner of the economy. Their rivals try to break them up, but the Medici fight back and eventually prevail. In the meantime, Cosimo dies in 1464, leaving the future of the family uncertain. Who will step up to lead the Medici into the next century? It's a tall order, but one man is up to the task. His name is Lorenzo de' Medici, and he's just 23 years old. Lorenzo is different from his predecessors. He's more interested in culture than commerce, and he uses his influence to promote art and learning. He becomes the patron of some of the greatest artists of the Renaissance, including Botticelli, Michelangelo, and Leonardo da Vinci. He commissions paintings, sculptures, and architecture that celebrate the glory of Florence. Under his patronage, the arts flourish and the city becomes known as the birthplace of the Renaissance. But Lorenzo isn't just a patron of the arts. He's also a shrewd politician who consolidates power in Florence. He tightens his grip on the government and eliminates any threats to his authority. He creates a network of spies who keep tabs on everyone in Florence, and he's not afraid to use violence to achieve his goals. Still, he maintains the fiction that Florence is a free republic. In reality, he's a virtual dictator, but he keeps up the charade to avoid any unrest among the populace. After all, the Medici name is synonymous with Florence, and if the people see him as a tyrant, they might rebel. Instead, he cultivates an image of himself as a benevolent leader. He funds public works projects, provides for the poor, and throws lavish parties that celebrate the culture of Florence. The illusion is so effective that most people never realize the truth. Only a handful of conspirators know the real nature of Lorenzo's rule. Among them is the Pazzi family, a group of powerful merchants who resent Lorenzo's growing power. They plot to kill him and take over Florence, but their plan fails and many of them are executed. The failed Pazzi conspiracy only makes Lorenzo more ruthless. He cracks down on any opposition and tightens his grip on the city. He becomes known as the Magnificent, a nickname that reflects his wealth and power, but it also foreshadows his downfall. Lorenzo lives a life of luxury and excess. He surrounds himself with beautiful works of art and spends lavishly on food, clothing, and entertainment. He becomes the epitome of Renaissance humanism, a man who values beauty, pleasure, and culture above all else. But his obsession with luxury blinds him to the growing threat from outside Florence. The French are amassing an army with the goal of conquering Italy, and Lorenzo's spies fail to warn him of the impending danger. When the French finally invade, Lorenzo is caught off guard. He raises an army to defend Florence, but it's too late. The French are victorious, and Lorenzo is forced to flee. He spends his last days in exile, plotting revenge against the French, but it's too late. The Magnificent is dead, but his legacy lives on. The Medici continue to dominate Florence for centuries, and their influence spreads throughout Europe. The Medici may be gone, but their story is far from over. Next time on Medici, we'll tell the story of how the Medici used love, betrayal, and murder to take over Florence. Don't miss it. And if you want to learn more about the most powerful family in history, check out our series, Medici, Godfathers of the Renaissance. ULL, get to see how the Medici used their vast wealth and power to shape the course of history. And if you want to learn more about the Renaissance, check out our series, The Renaissance, a very Medici Valentine. You'll explore the art, culture, and politics of one of the most exciting periods in history. So don't wait. Click below to learn more. Thank you for watching.